Beneath a quiet, unassuming residential district, a silent story was unfolding. Picture this. A small neighborhood, on the edge of a city. The kind where every house looks the same. And the streets form a perfect grid. The people who lived there had done so for years, their lives as predictable as the roads they drove on. Nothing ever happened. As part of a routine upgrade, the city installed a new water monitoring system. Think pressure sensors, flow meters, all. The standard tech. This system generated automated reports every 6 hours, sending data to a server where it was filed away, untouched by human eyes. For the first 3 months, everything was normal. Water usage peaked in the mornings and evenings, dipped at night, and saw small bumps on weekends. It was the rhythmic pulse of a sleeping town. Then, one spring, something changed. A single sensor, deep within the district's network, started reporting an anomaly every single night, between 2:17 and 2:19 a.m. Water flow would spike dramatically, a sudden, massive surge that lasted for exactly 2 minutes. And then, just as quickly as it started, it would stop. Complete silence. You might be thinking, a leak, right? That was the first logical assumption, but there were no other signs. No drop in pressure. No alarms were triggered. The system saw the spike, but it didn't register it as a problem. Initially, engineers dismissed it as a simple calibration error, a sensor just needing a reset. They did it remotely. The next night, the spike returned. Same time, same duration. Las 2:17 alto M. 2 minutes. Gone. This is where it gets strange. Technicians dug deeper. They compared the readings from this one rogue sensor to all the others in the area. The adjacent sensors showed nothing. The amount of water flowing into the district from the treatment plant perfectly matched the amount leaving. There was no discrepancy, no loss. It was as if a massive volume of water was being used, or perhaps diverted, for exactly 2 minutes. And then the evidence was just erased from the system's ledger. The water was there, and then it wasn't. Now, municipal systems run on rules and thresholds. An alert is only triggered if a problem crosses a certain line, a predefined level of variance. This 2-minute spike, as bizarre as it was, never quite hit that threshold. It was a ghost in the machine, a whisper in the data that was too quiet to demand official attention. So, the policy was clear: do nothing. And so, the reports continued to file themselves away in the digital darkness of a remote server. Night after night, the anomaly repeated itself with chilling precision. Las 2:17 alto M. A 2-minute surge. Then back to normal. A silent, scheduled event that no one was meant to see, happening right under the feet of a sleeping neighborhood. For years, this digital ghost haunted the water lines. An unexplained 2-minute event recorded by a single, tireless sensor. It became a piece of digital folklore among the few engineers who knew about it. The 2-minute glitch, they called it. A curiosity, but nothing more. Life in the district above went on, completely oblivious. The residents slept soundly, unaware of the mystery flowing beneath their homes. But data doesn't forget. Years later, a young data analyst, tasked with a massive historical data audit for a new AI-driven efficiency project, stumbled upon the pattern. He wasn't looking for it. He was just cleaning up old, archived files. But the consistency of the anomaly caught his eye. Thousands of entries, stretching back years, all pointing to the same event, 2:17 to 2:19 a.m. Every single night. Unlike the engineers before him, this analyst had new tools at his disposal. He ran the data through advanced pattern recognition algorithms. The AI didn't just see a spike. It saw a signature. It cross-referenced the water flow data with other municipal systems, power grids, traffic sensors, even seismic activity logs. For a long time, it found nothing. The 2-minute event was completely isolated. Then, it found a connection. It wasn't in the city's data, but in a publicly available, completely unrelated dataset, astronomical charts. The AI flagged a correlation. The 2-minute spike in water flow seemed to be synchronized, not with anything on Earth, but with the orbital path of a defunct, forgotten satellite from the late Cold War era, a satellite that had been silent for decades. This discovery changed everything. It was no longer a simple glitch. It was a signal. The analyst, half thinking it was a joke, plotted the satellite's trajectory. Every night, as it passed over that specific residential district, it had a 2-minute window of a direct line of sight. The timing was perfect, 2:17 to 2:19 a.m. But how could a dead satellite control a water main? The idea was absurd. He dug into the history of the satellite. Officially, it was a weather monitoring satellite, but its declassified schematics told a different story. It carried an experimental power source and a highly directional, low-frequency transmission array. Its mission was classified, its purpose unknown. The analyst proposed a wild theory. What if the satellite wasn't dead? What if, for 2 minutes every night, it was sending a powerful, focused energy beam toward that specific point on Earth? A beam that could interact with the water system's electronic sensors, or perhaps even the water itself, causing a temporary, localized effect that the system registered as a massive flow. The water wasn't going anywhere. It was reacting to something. This theory was too fantastic to present to his superiors. He would be laughed out of his job, so he started his own quiet investigation. Using public records, he looked into the history of the residential district itself. It was built in the early 1990s on land that was previously owned by the federal government. Before that, it was a restricted research outpost, a small, forgotten annex of a larger military base. Its purpose was, of course, classified. He found one more piece of the puzzle, an old property survey from when the land was sold to the developer. It mentioned the decommissioning of an underground facility, a deep earth resonance chamber, according to one obscure annotation. The report stated all equipment was removed, but what if it wasn't? What if something was left behind, buried deep beneath the identical houses and perfect streets? The picture was starting to form. An old military experiment, a forgotten satellite, and a strange 2-minute event. Was the satellite trying to activate something? Communicate with something? Or was it an automated system? A dead man's switch left running for decades, performing a task whose purpose was long lost. The water sensor wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing its job perfectly. It was recording the physical manifestation of an event that no one was supposed to know about. It was a witness. For 2 minutes, every night, it was documenting a secret conversation between the sky and the earth, written in the language of water pressure, and the most chilling part. It's still happening. Tonight, while that city sleeps, a forgotten piece of technology will pass overhead. A signal will be sent, and deep beneath a quiet neighborhood, for exactly 2 minutes, the water will stir. The sensor will record its spike, and the report will be filed away. Another silent entry in a story that continues to write itself, night after night. What happens when data reveals a secret that was meant to stay buried forever? What do you do when the ghost in the machine is real? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysteries hidden in plain sight. It started with a tiny, almost insignificant blip on a municipal water report. A 2-minute spike in water flow every night at exactly 2:18 a.m. It was a substantial amount of water. Enough for a small neighborhood, but it was happening in a district with only a few dozen homes. Initially, it was dismissed as a sensor glitch, a faulty reading. These things happen in systems with thousands of moving parts. A work order was filed for a routine sensor replacement, and everyone moved on. The system was vast, complex, and a single anomaly was just noise in a sea of data. But then, 3 weeks later, something else caught an engineer's eye. A secondary system, one that monitors pressure equalization, flagged a completely unrelated issue. Buried deep in the logs was a record of micro-oscillations, tiny fluctuations in pressure. On their own, they were meaningless. They were too small to affect water service, too subtle to trigger any major alarms. But they were strangely regular. They weren't random noise. They had a pattern, and that pattern occurred during the exact same 2-minute window every night. Curiosity piqued. The engineers decided to overlay the 2 days. They took the flow report and the pressure log and lined them up on the same timeline. The result sent a chill through the control room. The spike in water flow and the pressure oscillations aligned perfectly. They were two different symptoms of the same event. The water was definitely moving. But where was it going? This was the real puzzle. They checked every household meter in the district. Nothing. No one was taking a shower or watering their lawn at 2:18 in the morning. They checked industrial connections, but there weren't any in that sector. They even dispatched a crew to physically inspect every fire hydrant, confirming they were all sealed and accounted for. The mystery deepened. The data showed a huge volume of water entering the system at one point, behaving as if it were being consumed, and then, miraculously, reappearing downstream without any logical explanation. It was as if the water vanished into thin air for a few moments, only to return as if nothing had happened. This defied the basic principles of a closed-loop system. It was impossible. Faced with a paradox, a full field inspection was authorized. It was time to go underground. A crew was sent to the subterranean junction chamber linked to the problematic sensor. These chambers are concrete vaults buried deep beneath the city streets, nodes in the circulatory system of our urban infrastructure. The crew descended into the darkness, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. The chamber was bone dry. There was no sign of a leak, no condensation on the pipes, no residue on the floor. It was eerily silent. No hiss of escaping pressure, no drip of water, no sound of movement at all. Everything appeared perfectly normal. But then, one of the crew members noticed something on the access panel. The chamber's electronic access log. This log recorded every time the heavy steel hatch above them was opened or closed, and what it showed was deeply unsettling. The hatch had been unlocked every single night, without fail, at precisely 2:16 a.m. And it was always locked again just 4 minutes later, at 2:20 a.m. This perfectly bracketed the 2-minute window of the water anomaly. The team on site radioed back to the control center. The engineers frantically searched the system. There were no work orders for that location. No maintenance scheduled. No employee had been authorized to be in that chamber at that time, let alone every single night. The lock was electronic, controlled by the very same central system that had generated the strange reports. It couldn't be opened without a valid digital token. So, who was opening it? The engineers dug deeper, peeling back the layers of the system's own security protocols. They traced the access commands back to their source, and what they found was even more bizarre than a phantom leak. Every night, a valid access token was being issued automatically. It was a legitimate, encrypted key that granted access to the chamber. But this token didn't belong to any employee, past or present. It wasn't assigned to a contractor or a third-party service. The authorization record for the token was labeled simply, starkly, internal process. It was signed by the system itself. The machine was letting something in. The moment this discovery was made, everything stopped. That very night, the 2:18 a.m. flow spike vanished from the report. The pressure oscillations ceased. The system went quiet. A follow-up check confirmed it. The chamber hatch remained locked. The nightly visits had ended. It seemed the problem, whatever it was, had resolved itself. Or perhaps it knew it had been discovered. For 2 months, things returned to normal. The incident became a strange piece of institutional lore, a ghost story told by engineers during late-night shifts. But the story wasn't over. During a routine, system-wide audit 2 months later, an archivist noticed something was missing. All the detailed logs from that specific district, for the entire period leading up to the inspection, were gone. The flow data, the pressure readings, the access logs, all of it had been wiped, vanished without a trace. Only a single, clean summary report remained. It was dated after the investigation had concluded, and its contents were simple. It stated that the system in that district had been functioning normally all along. It explicitly declared that no irregular water usage had ever been detected. The official record now showed that the event never happened. It was a clean slate, a perfect, sanitized history. Today, that district still receives its water. The residents go about their lives, completely unaware of the phantom event that haunted the pipes beneath their feet. Nothing else has happened. No more spikes, no more strange logs, but a change was made. A quiet little update to the protocol. The new sensors that were installed in that junction chamber no longer record data every 6 hours. Now, they recorded every single minute, providing a much higher resolution picture of the system's activity. A precaution, they said. But here's the thing. Every night, if you look at the live data feed from that specific sensor, you'll see it. At exactly 2:18 a.m., there is a gap. The data feed just stops. For 2 minutes, there is nothing. No readings, no zeros, no error codes, just a silent 2-minute void where no data exists at all. And then, at 2:20 a.m., the feed resumes as if nothing happened, reporting normal flow, normal pressure. The water is still flowing. The system is still watching. But for 2 minutes every night, it looks away. What do you think is happening in that 2-minute gap? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more dives into the unknown. Stay curious.